Hey everyone, time for NaNoWriMo again. I'm at 42,500 words. I need to hit 45,000 by the end of this session, and that'll put me a couple days away from the 50,000 word goal. I suspect I won't be done with the novel then, but I may take a break from it from a little while and then come back to it and read back through and rework things. So we'll see how that works out. But the novel, before I forget to switch to my screen, is Rise Again, a sci-fi novel by Jay Wilburn. And we are on. Where are we? Chapter 22. Alright, so I'm going to reread what I've got on Chapter 22 so far and then kick right in. I was supposed to watch them and repeat anything they said about the families. Anything. I'm thinking families need to be capitalized here because that seems to be a gang. The families. Anything. Good or bad, it didn't matter. It wasn't my place to decide what mattered. Just any mention, word for word, bring it back, and don't waste anyone's time thinking for myself. I knew better. I knew better if I wanted to eat. No thinking for me, just listening and remembering. Problem was the pair of travelers was saying crazy shit. Bringing back crazy shit to the family bosses was as bad or maybe worse than thinking for myself. If I repeated what these guys who called themselves Trey and Rick, the bosses, repeated what these guys if I repeated what these guys I need to put said here. Said put a comma. It looks weird, but I think that's grammatically correct. The bosses were likely to think I was crazy. Then just being hungry would be the least of my problems. I tracked them through the market. On the far side, near the bend in the river where the sewage dumps in, they stopped and looked up at the sky for a good long time, like they'd seen a balloon, like they'd never seen a balloon before. Trey even said, I've never seen anything like that before. I looked up in the sky like a dummy myself, waiting to get robbed or worse, but the way they were gawking and Trey saying a thing like that got me thinking that there must be something more up there than usual. Should have listened to the bosses about making the mistake of thinking. It was just a balloon, one of the bigger ones with 3 sections to it, but still just a damn balloon. It skirted along the bottom edge of the clouds that were rather low today. Purple, green, and yellow lightning danced around the belly of the balloon's cabin and over the grounding nets along the outside of the bladders. Maybe it was the Ottoman flag they weren't familiar with. Hill folks missed a lot of stuff, but these boys did not look like hill folk to me, if you'll forgive me thinking for myself. Is that electricity from the same interference that's keeping us from opening a portal into the next world? A couple things there made less sense than them acting like they'd never seen an Ottoman balloon before. Everyone had seen the lightning. I mean, everyone. If they really were from a place with no lightning, then they were going to get a real shock when they saw the devil's rainbow. They moved and I moved without making it look like we'd done it together. They stopped again on the next corner, and I had to veer off to keep from looking suspicious. they watched Boss Cal's armored truck roll through and turn away from the river. Boys on the gated flatbed behind the bulletproof cab shoveled charcoal and wood chips into the burner under the fat and glowing boiler. The vent pipes stood as tall as the two-story buildings on both sides. Because of how cold it was, the vented steam billowed out like smoke. One of the boys caught me staring too, and he dropped his shovel so he could give me both fingers. Cal's boys or not, I'd normally track a little shit like that down to take those fingers from him. I had other work though, so I didn't even return the salute. Trey and Rick found nothing else to distract them, so they headed east along Rupert Street. Less traffic there, so I had to hang back a bit, but stayed close enough to hear any family talk, good or bad. Rick said, "I can't stop thinking about my mother you haven't had much of breath to be able to process that, I guess, Trey said. At first, I thought that was a blessing, but I think it's just building up. I told myself that it is in a different universe now, but that doesn't make it better. It almost makes her feel more dead, like further away. Maybe if there's a heaven, she's in a different one that I can't get to. I can't tell you much on what heaven might be like. Be like Rick. But if there is one, I almost have to think it would be in the middle. A hub between all the worlds. So maybe every version of you in every universe gets... Hey, Falling Sanity Studios, thanks for dropping in. So maybe every version of you in every universe gets to meet back up with every one of her ever born. Some got to live longer. Some you had better relationships with. Even the ones who had it worse than you get a chance to connect with better versions. That sounds nice, Rick said. Do you believe that? Or are you just saying it to be nice? Maybe a little of both. Some days I'd find it easier to believe there is a hell at the center of all this. But that's not the best thing to say at a time like this. Have you ever met a double of yourself traveling between worlds. Trey said, no, but I hadn't looked too much. A lot of worlds are so different that there's no chance. My world was close to yours, Rick said. Did you look? Trey laughed and then said, I searched on Yahoo, found a few Trey Greens. Found a few Trey Greens around, but none of them were me, born to my parents. Yahoo instead of Google. Trey shrugged. We had a Yahoo in my world. Yahoo search site in my world. So I went with what was familiar. But you think we have doubles. People born like us. But you think we have doubles, people born like us, who lived slightly different lives in their worlds. There have to be an infinite number of worlds, I would think. I suppose I have no evidence of that, but seems like it's got to be true. I keep missing the ones I'm looking for. What was different about your Civil War that made you want to look for a different world? Trey took a deep breath and said, it's not just that. I'm looking for most any change that opens up more freedom. One where the march of tyranny hasn't gone too far. It's just after our Civil War, maybe yours too. I didn't study as much in the few days we had. Okay, it's not just our Civil War, maybe yours. It's just after our Civil War, maybe yours too. I didn't study as much in the few days we had in your world. But afterward, the federal government took more and more power. It corrupts in every world and results in the death of freedom. What's your perfect world? At this point, I would settle for one that can hold onto its values just through the remainder of my lifetime. Rick clapped him on the back and said, "Well, let's keep going and see if we can get somewhere to recharge your bones, and we'll jump to another planet." I followed them all the way out of town, and this sort of talk continued. When I came back, I told bosses nothing about other planets and doubles of people. I just said they talked about communism. And said nothing about the families. Alright. So we are looking at, that was chapter 22. We'll save this title because they're going to be in the same world. Now, that is not what I meant to do. Chapter 23. All right. I got night duty for the prank on Bailey. Any other night, and it would have been him messing with my uniform, but it was my night to get caught and punished. So I found myself on the fence to the Badlands for the 5th night in a row, with twice that many left to go. Some of the patrol around me were regular night shift. They didn't appreciate having guys like me put onto their duty as punishment. They found it insulting, and they hated guys like me for it. That meant 3 of them were about 50 yards to my left, and 5 others gathered about 80 yards to my right. If I wandered too close to them, they'd click and hiss at me like I was some damn animal getting too close for their comfort. I could pace about 10 yards one way and maybe 20 the other without getting hissed at. It was so damn cold, and I still had daytime responsibilities, so I was exhausted. Sitting down and falling asleep aside from possibly freezing to death would mean the brig, and there were no heaters in there. There were no heaters in there. Not this close to the Badlands. At first, I thought the pair of men running at me from the other side of the fences were my imagination. Just spots in my vision from the fairy lights out over the fairy lights from out over the deeper west. Then I was sure I was seeing them running to me, but I still couldn't believe it. By the time I got my wits about me, the wrong place for the comma. By the time I got my wits about me, they were maybe twice as far as the guards to my right. Hey guys. Someone's coming. Guys. I got clicks and hisses from both sides. Cut that shit out. Someone's running the border. Hey guys. Now they were closer and not slowing down. I could see their breath twisting above the shadows of their shapes as they touched the very outer limits of the lantern light. Hold on, I got the wrong notes up. very limits of the lantern lights. Then I saw the other men chasing, bows twanged, and projectiles from slingshots cut through the grass ahead of the pair and closer to us, closer to me. Damn it. You don't hear that? I ran to the pump on my right and made the handle squeal as I primed. The shriek of metal should have been alarm enough, but none of the regulars had acted yet. By the time I kicked on the pneumatic machines, they were at least starting to point through the fence. I flared up the torch and filled the west with enough light to drown the colors of the fairies in the sky. Alright. Drowned out the fairies in the sky. Then the alarm blared. If I wasn't right, this would be the end of my service. I could already see in the flood of light that I was right, but might not live to celebrate. Gunfire popped off from the towers, and the pursuers turned back for the darkness farther west. The other two stopped and almost got cut down for it. Dirt spit into the air on both sides of them. That's when everything got fuzzy. Maybe wavy is a better word. It made me sick and dizzy to try to focus on them. Then the air got thick and I could hardly hear the siren, even standing right next to it. I backed into the pole of the pneumatic between pumps. It tore my shirt and caught my skin, cutting me a nasty gash. Didn't even realize it had happened until later. I kept backing away, feeling like those waves in the air were stealing the oxygen right out of my lungs. I tripped twice on my heels, but windmilled my arms until I backed into a cinder block pump house. I slid down it, leaving a bloody smear that got me out of guard duty and into a nice warm infirmary for the night. The waves changed direction and drew back to their center, where those two guys used to be standing. it created a pulse, or like a thump, that hurt my ears but allowed me to breathe again until everything went back to normal. I didn't realize that it felt like the waves in the air were trying to pull me in. As the medics tended to me, still thinking I was hit, everyone noticed in the light that a large circle of the chain link fence had been cut clean and perfect out of the middle. That circle of woven metal was never found, nor were the two men who appeared to vanish in thin air. That circle of woven metal was never found, nor were the two men who appeared to vanish in thin air. What else? They still think I was clipped by whatever weapon took out that swatch of fence. I'm not saying anything otherwise because I still got 10 days of night guard duty ahead of me, and it ain't getting any warmer. Okay, chapter 24. Alright, what is this world? Post end 174. Mill Terror 6. EMP question mark 1. Alright. I knew we were in trouble. Not just being chased. How many INGs do I want there, huh? Not just being chased to the fences and the armed guards by the bandits, and not just because we got spotlighted, and not just because we got spotlighted and shot at right at the moment we tried to jump. Trey's power in his implants was coming and going. We might have needed to go another 20 miles or more before it was stable, but we were out of time. It took longer to travel this time, and it hurt a hell of a lot more. It was like I could feel a solid line of energy cut down through the center of my body like a razor blade. Except that the blade was pushing through my atoms sideways. It was like getting cut straight through every particle. One at a time. From hey, Miami Vice City, it's going pretty well so far. I'm closing in on my 50,000. Still got about 800 words to go. Story's coming together okay. I'm looking at where to make some changes and twists here coming up, but going pretty smoothly. It was like getting cut straight through every particle one at a time, from right to left. I was almost surprised to still be in one piece and not bleeding from every pore as I fell face down on a street that wasn't there a moment earlier. It was warmer by a lot. Too warm for the mismatched winter gear we'd been wearing. After that, the pain and raw illness sunk into every nerve and muscle. Trey growled as he got back to his hands and knees beside me. He grabbed me by the shoulder of my thick coat and pulled me toward him. As he grabbed me by the shoulder of my thick coat and pulled me toward him, as he said something in my ear, but the ringing was still too loud, either from what we just went through or that siren that had stopped in an instant. Then the spotlight poured over me again. It lit and accented every pit and imperfection in the asphalt under me. Little flecks of quartz or mica glowed with the artificial light growing brighter by the second. Then the blare of the siren returned and drew closer to me. I heard, no, Jen doesn't need to hear it, it just needs to happen. Brakes screamed as a chrome what am I spelling wrong here? CH chrome, okay. As a chrome bumper barreled toward my face. Move, Trey screamed. That I understood, even if my muscles still cramped up in protest. Not sure if it stopped in time, but we cleared the lanes as other cars screamed to halts and laid down on their horns too. We found a break in the concrete barrier. Alright. We found a break in the concrete barrier. And ran through into the tall, dark grass. I fell to my knees twice on the slope and cut myself on something sharp the second time. We got to level but wet ground and slogged along away from the snarl we'd created by materializing in the middle of nighttime traffic on some unknown highway. We passed through farmland, a dirt trail beside a sprawling trailer park, along a deserted road lined by thick pines, and we reached the back of a shopping center. Trey said, "Let's sit and rest a moment." I pointed over to a concrete structure a little farther back from the service area behind the shopping center. We went behind it and sat down on the concrete lip around it. I was sweating and shed a couple layers to cool off. using the clothing for padding and pillows, I started to drift as I sat up. I didn't realize we'd both fallen sound asleep until Trey stirred and I jolted awake beside him. My neck was stiff and my cramping muscles ached. I wasn't rested, but it was better than before, at least until I tried to stand up straight. I had to use the side of the utility shed for support. Anywhere you'd like to visit for the next few days? Trey asked. I could hear hoarseness in his voice. Maybe a cold or pneumonia. Hopefully nothing more deadly than that. I had already avoided major pandemics in my world. I wasn't looking to catch anything new from this world, from New Worlds. A library to see if we are somewhere safe. I stretched again and felt no shame when I let out a high whine of pain. For breakfast, food would be good. Food would be good, Trey said. It's a shame they don't have information desks set up for visitors from other dimensions, it would help a lot, especially if, okay. All right, it would help a lot, especially if you could exchange money from one world to another. I said, if we keep going the way we are, they might start doing just that. Trey stepped out from the side and stared. We might be able to trade in some of these extra clothes. What do you think? I looked down at the ratty handmade garments we'd gathered while crossing an unforgiving landscape. These look like homeless people were living in them. No thrift shop would even take them. Trey sighed and then said, "Do you feel like carrying them?" In the event of a sudden cold snap, I just shook my head and then held my neck through the cramp that gesture inspired. He started walking. "Come on. This world looks familiar enough for a few old tricks to work. In a matter of a few blocks, Trey had managed to break open a few newspaper machines to, let's make it 8 pay telephones in 3 different locations and a soda machine. He got a Coke and I took a water. As we both rattled with all the change we were carrying. Fortunately, most of it was quarters. The soda machine did not accept dollars. Okay, let's go back here and say unfortunately. Fortunately, the soda machine did not accept dollars. No one saw us that I know of, but Trey had us cut along a couple other side streets and past a few restaurants without stopping. We need to put some distance between us and those busted machines. Before we start buying pancakes with quarters. Alright, I'm going to stop there because I've hit 45,000. That'll give me time to think about what I want to do with this world. Alright, so it is definitely going to be more than 50,000 to finish this novel, but I'm definitely going to do the 50,000 before I take a break in November here. Let us take a look at the NaNoWriMo page to see how everybody else is doing. Okay. Here we go. NaNoWriMo, I was at 42,539. I am currently at 45,011, so let me put that in. Make my little jump to 45,011. I am happy with my progress. Update. Now we'll take a look at some of my friends, see if anyone else has hit their 50,000 goal. Jessica McHugh. Excellent job. She is at 10,015 on her second novella. The first one topped out at closer to 30,000 than the 25,000. And now she has another 25,000 word novella. Only 15,000 left to go. And so she'll be done well ahead of schedule and have gotten well over the 50,000 word mark. All right, so let's take a look at somebody else. How is Armand Rosamilia doing? Well, let's look how he's doing. Armand Rosamilia has hit his 50,000 word mark, so 50,161. I don't know if he's done with Devil's School, but he has made his goal. I think one of the motivations for him to finish up yesterday was that he knew I would look today, and so very proud of him. And of course, he beat me to the end of NaNoWriMo and has earned the right to rub that in if he chooses to, but we've been pretty positive this year, so maybe he'll just congratulate me when I get there. Now, Also, John Quick on his novel has reached 53,406 words, and he hit that goal. I want to say 2 days ago. He hit his 50,000 words, and he's going to continue on, I guess, until he's done with that novel. We'll see how long that takes. So keeping going. Let's take a look at Alex from Iowa. He is at 27,184 words. Pretty close to on pace, I would think. And in addition to this, he's writing other short stories, and so he's putting down more words total than just this one project. But based on where he is now, I think he has a solid chance of getting his 50,000 words at the end of 30 days. I don't think he's in any real danger of coming up short based on how he's doing so far. All right. Moving on from Alex, we can look at, let's see where Tim Meyer was. He has hit his 50,000 yesterday, and he is currently on Ronodon Canyon at 51,680. So he's pushing on until he's finished. He told me the word count that he thought he may need to get to, but I don't remember what it is. But he's still got a ways to go on this novel. He's hit his goal, but he's going to keep going until he's finished with that. So we'll get to maybe see a little bit more of his progress if he keeps posting as he goes. But excellent job to all of those fine young men who have reached their goals. Let's take a look at Stephen Kozanowski. They are doing great. Stephen on the book Clickers Never Die is at 48,094 words. So they are easily going to hit the 50,000 word mark and maybe keep going from there depending on how long that novel is. So wouldn't be surprised to see them hit that tomorrow or the day after that. All right, let's take a look at Cody Langill. Also doing great. He is at 32,532 words. So at my best estimation, I would say that he is well on track to get to the 50,000 words before the end of Nano. I believe a little over 1,000 words a day will get him there. So he's been pretty well on pace all the way along. I don't think he's fallen far behind at all, if ever. If at all. All right. And Todd Kiesling with Spiders in the Lattice is at 36,977 words. Basically a little over 1,000 words a day to finish, and he's well ahead of schedule too. So excellent job by everybody there. I'm probably going to finish right on the 20th, and that was my original plan anyway. So Rise Again, a sci-fi novel by Jay Wilburn. I'll hit the 50,000 words by the 20th, I believe, on the 20th. And then, depending on where I am, I may push forward for a couple more streams, or I may take a break from that, try to catch up on a few other things, and then maybe come back to it in a couple months, reread through, see if I can fix some things, tighten up the story a little bit, and then push on toward the end and have myself a decent novel that can be edited into something that will sell pretty well. So thank you to everybody for listening in, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.